Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Crypto Traders live call recorded on February the 5th, 2019. It's me and Matthew going over the charts, the markets, fundamentals. We touch base on hash power mining, Bitcoin versus the big block versions of Bitcoin. We talked about everything from XRP to PundiX and Quant, not to be confused with Quant Stamp, DigiByte, and a bunch of other stuff. Ultimately, we didn't like a whole lot of charts today. There's a lot of weird patterns playing out. There's a lot of stuff kind of playing out in no man's land. The two to watch right now are Litecoin and BNB. Matt pointed out that Litecoin has been outperforming the general market, and BNB is playing a delightful little channel and maybe looking at a breakout retest as we record. So,
but don't sleep on BAT too long.
Yes, BAT is one to keep an eye on. BAT ads are supposed to be coming out imminently. We don't know exactly when. Our insider news is like, yeah, guys, coming out soon, which is roughly the same as everybody else's inside news on BAT. Anything else? What else do we cover, Matt?
Mainly Litecoin and BNB were the two biggest plays of the past month. I think there still could be potential in both of them, but I think BAT is one that I'm going to be keeping an eye on for an entry.
Yep.
And other than that, not too bullish on Bitcoin right now, but
Sure.
We cover Bitcoin and also the overall market cap and kind of break down the markets as well.
So, yeah, about an hour and 15 minutes. Good information the whole time. Good questions from the crowd, and we cover it, fundamentals, the charts, the news, and everything else going on. And so enjoy. It's the webinar of the week from CryptoTradersPro.com. Kurt and Matt, enjoy.
Cool.
We are live. Welcome, everybody, to the Crypto Traders live call or whatever. I'm going to pass to Matt.
I'm just pulling up all the charts.
Sure.
And I think BNB's been the one to watch, huh?
Yeah, absolutely. What a good, unexpected, in my opinion, but a good-looking chart.
You could probably even draw this back, huh?
Mm-hmm.
But it hasn't closed yet,
right.
And it looked like it was going to break out, but it could close back somewhere in this box.
Mm-hmm.
It's not always going to be perfect, but people are talking about this like they're going to go jump in head first, and I'm like,
yeah, it's little late to go heavy on that chart. So,
but we were talking about it pretty early. This has been the talk BNB all month. So you've had plenty of opportunity to play this chart all month, and now it's just been crazy how it's riding this channel so long.
Yeah, it loves that trend. The trend is your friend.
But at the same time, it's kind of like a rising wedge.
Right.
So eventually this is the odds of it breaking down are higher than it breaking upwards.
Yep.
And the upside potential from here is just so limited. It's going to be hitting resistance. So,
right.
Buying it right now, it's more risky.
Yeah, it's not the time to go in now, I don't think. And one of the ones I missed, I didn't chase the BNB play.
What do you think of BNB, Vance?
Yeah, I mean, I've been saying for a while that I'm a fan of it. It's a true commodity in this space. Also, there's no short market on it, so it's inherently biased to the bullish side because people have to buy it to get their discounted fees. So you always have buyers. You don't have shorters. It's a commodity that has an actual use. I'm a big believer in a long-term buy and hold on that one. One thing I will call out on that chart by the looks of it is we're starting to get a divergence on the RSI. So it looks like the RSI is either flat at the moment or maybe it's slightly higher, but the price is definitively higher. So
that is off the bottoms, or are you looking at the tops?
Off the top. So you look at the top of the last peak of the wedge, and then this one, and then you sort of see. So that actual peak on the RSI where we are now versus the last peak, it looks very flat.
It hasn't set an uptrend yet. It hasn't hit that line yet.
Yeah. So that's where, especially given that we just wicked out of the wedge and the RSI isn't showing the same sort of upward momentum, that suggest that it's starting to weaken. Which would make sense because, I mean, the patterns tend to play themselves. So it's going to require a lot of volume and a lot of activity to get outside of that pattern because it's going to want to hold that pattern.
But at the same time, you got, the volume's still got, 3-4 hours left in the day. And it's right now it's almost higher than yesterday. So the volume is probably going to be higher than it was yesterday by the time it closes. So it has been gaining volume over these last few weeks. And that's a good sign. I'm not surprised, though, that this is going faster than like Bitcoin, which is generally what leads to the market. Right now, BNB is kind of taken off on its own, which is a really good sign for any action on Binance.
Yep, absolutely. Well, and it's just more value spilling into the exchange too. I think Binance is making itself a clear case that they intend to be like the exchange to be doing business on. There's been talk now. I've seen a number of rumors of opening margin trading and other things as well. They've allowed people to sign up, do some KYC. You can use your credit card to buy crypto from Binance. So they're trying to be easier and easier to do business with. The whole thing is interesting from a business standpoint. Like if I were to invest in an IPO in the crypto space, Binance might be one that I would take 2 or 3 looks at.
I think Vance also has a good point of you can't short.
Right.
So maybe that is what has been holding them back from adding margin trading. They don't want people shorting BNB.
Sure.
I wouldn't want that. It's like,
well, right. It's a specific utility token. I mean, some of these things really shouldn't be margin tradable because they serve a specific function that gets beaten up by shorting. Something like Bitcoin, for example, I think you absolutely should be able to short. But if you have a specific utility token, it's not supposed to be as secure. Like I think you should be allowed to short certain types of securities, but not necessarily short utilities because they're not supposed to be security. So I don't know. I'd have to think that thought. That's a thought that I just bounced off my own brain just now. So
I mean, Binance effectively act as the market maker for BNB,
right?
Because so when you think about it, the ultimate buyer of BNB is Binance, because every time you do a transaction with BNB fees, they get it back.
Correct.
So they're the one that is able to basically set those high end thresholds. So if the price gets out of control, they can sell down onto the market at market rate to constrain it. And then alternatively, when the price is too low, they have the capability of being able to do the burns that they do, which reduces the supply, which inherently brings the price up.
Sure.
So they it's quite funny given that everyone tends to lean towards everything in this market is manipulated. The one thing that is probably truly actually manipulated, everyone sort of loves, and there's nothing wrong with that. I mean, that's the job of a market maker is to keep these markets competitive, and I think Binance is doing a really good job of doing that in this example.
Yep. CZ runs the central bank we need right now.
Yeah.
So you think they're so smart, though, that they're offering a token that isn't stable? Like all the other exchanges have their own stable coin. Mm-hmm. Binance is not doing a stable coin and just they're going to make a lot more money from it.
Yeah, I mean it's a better business tool, and it's more akin to sound money because, like Vance said, it's actually a true commodity. So I mean, it's people in the West have this weird obsession with stability and everything else. I think that's actually across all things that, like, people from the Anglosphere, like Great Britain existed, like the British Empire existed to provide stability to people who didn't want it. And now we've all been conditioned that, like, oh man, if there's not the smart people in charge, we're all in big trouble. And I think China, in many ways, has a freer market than the West based on stuff like that. They don't have the intellectual property regulations. They don't have, yeah, frankly, they don't have the budget to do a whole lot of economic control outside of the major cities. And so in a lot of ways, China is leading in a lot of free market function as a test bed. And I think this is a great example of it, that like, hey, you know what, like we'll be that sort of central bank of Binance. We'll provide value. We have an incentive to provide you value and build trust because it makes us more money. So it's a trust-based system in business rather than a trust-based system because, you know, I'm the government and you have to trust me. So it's just two different models, two competing models. I think it's interesting how they play out from an economic standpoint. Question. Sao, I always forget how to say this. Sao Haib saying, Matt, I wonder why the nano chart is a hell no chart. Haha. I thought it wasn't that bad. Good volume, good risk reward ratio. Plus, it's bounced up this multiple times in the past. So, what's the matter with it, Matt?
Hell no, because look at where it's at on the chart. Like, to me, it looks like it's breaking down of what was support. Of course, it could close green, and that's really what it needs. But it's looking pretty bad to me, and there's a huge gap right here.
Sure.
Like, it could go down significantly from here until the nearest support, 20%, 30%. Now, that's the only other support over here, and then it's back to all-time lows.
Sure.
So why am I going to try and... No. That's why it's a hell no.
Well, and then what's the reward ratio? Like, what are we looking at for the sell zone as a trade?
Well,
probably
really
like 10% or something.
We need any signs of a reversal because it's been red now for what? Since January 26th.
Yeah, it looks like it's been.
And this is the support level right here.
Right.
So really it needs to get over what? 2,400 sats. But we'll see. The day hasn't closed yet.
Yeah.
Let's look at the 4 hour. Like that last candle just kind of owned it.
Sure.
Yeah, I wouldn't want to be in there. But that's what I've been saying about a lot of these. Like, you gotta move slow.
Yeah, they're not looking.
Like, BAT is what I'm talking about, but that's why I said move slow because the nearest support level is about 3,000 sats.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, well, we started looking at it when it was 3,300. So you just buy a little bit every time. And too many people just jump into it. Bad ads coming out first of the month. No, probably not.
Well, yeah, people got to. I mean, everybody suffers from FOMO about something, right? I mean, this is why used car sales exist, and you know, people pay $400 a month for cable TV and everything else. Is that, you know, you're made to feel like this is the opportunity, and you will miss it. And I think people need to really take a step back and realize that, you know what, we could be at the beginning of the second year of a 3-year bear market. Like that is like, there's no reason why that shouldn't be. Like, we may not be, we may have already seen the bottom, but I don't see an indication that we are reversing from the bottom yet. And
some coins look better than others. Like BNB, I think, yeah, it could break down here, but still, this is a very big bounce off the lows.
Mm-hmm.
Some coins are still sitting near the lows. Like BAT could drop all the way back down 2,200 again.
Sure.
So, I mean, that's why I didn't call it as a signal, because I don't love the chart. I like the news catalyst that could come out based off, you know, speaking with Luke Malks, and, you know, but that's not a for sure to just take it to the moon.
Mm-hmm.
The chart is still not that great, so I have to take that into consideration and move slowly.
Well, let's take a good look at Bitcoin, because right now I think
it's the same thing.
Liquidity the way it is now, I don't think anything's going to do anything special without Bitcoin right now.
Well, yeah, and that's the same type of pattern. the descending wedge, but I don't even like this descending wedge that much. It's just such low volume, and that's really what we need to turn this thing around.
Mm-hmm.
There's no buyers out there on Bitcoin. It has been dead for the past month.
Yeah.
And I think it's holding a lot of the altcoins back because, again, some of them are, I think Litecoin's been looking pretty good compared to Bitcoin. Sure. Some of them have been trying to take off, but Bitcoin's kind of holding them back. Like this chart on Litecoin looks completely different than Bitcoin.
Right.
It's been trying to hold its gains.
Yeah, absolutely.
As much as that probably you don't like to hear that.
You know what? It's just like anything else. Like if Bitcoin isn't going to work for what people want to use it for, then people have to look somewhere else. And I think Litecoin is the politically safe coin to look at. It's the one that everybody will tell you, like, well, just use Litecoin if you're looking for, XYZ payments coin. And it's just like anything else. People are afraid to go outside of the narrative that's set for them by people who are perceived to be the intelligentsia. And Bitcoin, BTC, the whole core community has spent the last couple of years basically threatening people to stay away from the Bitcoin blockchain because it's too valuable to use and, everything else. And they've kind of painted themselves into a corner of, Bitcoin use is only to run a full node and store your wealth and, stay away from the Cyprian government and whatever else. And the whole thing is just, it's too ethereal for most people. Like how many people even know what Austrian economics are, or what, why a gold standard matters? Like, this is not marketing tactics. The Mises Institute is not popular, and it's not popular because it's a bunch of old economists talking about precious metals, and most people want to watch, Dancing with the Stars or whatever the hell else. And so Bitcoin is pigeonholing itself into the intellectual elite coin that no one's allowed to use because no one's allowed to understand it. And, when you think about that, like for me to explain to, my great aunt, hey, here's why you should have Bitcoin. She's looking at me and saying, man, I like all you crazy kids are definitely crazy. And this is proof. And I'm moving on, but maybe I'll get some Litecoin though.
So it's too complicated to understand.
Right. And moving toward complication. So something like Litecoin is just much more simple conceptually. And it's funny because Litecoin is just Bitcoin with a faster block time, period. That's it. And then it therefore has the trying to mute. It's not letting me mute. Worst admin rights ever. So it's just Bitcoin, but when it works for something that people understand, and people definitely understand wasting money. So hey, I want to buy that thing. I need these shoes. I want this widget from the internet. Litecoin is much easier to understand. Nobody's talking about the need to run a full Litecoin node and all this stuff. It's like, buy Litecoin, use Litecoin to buy things, period.
Mm-hmm.
And it's a much easier sell than, well, do you know about the gold standard? And do you understand why, Bitcoin is digital gold? And, you lost essentially everybody.
Yeah. Yeah. I find that all the time. It's complicated to explain to people that still have a hard grasp on understanding email and stuff, doing stuff on the internet.
Yeah.
It's hard, and it can't be. But at the same time, I think appealing to the next generations is going to be a very important drive to cryptocurrency success.
For sure. 100%. And it has to have regular utility in your real life. And if it doesn't, then what's the point? And it can as an investment. I think that's, again, the second most clear thing about it is, hey, if I buy these things, they go up in value and I make money. Obviously, a lot of people think they're going to do, buy coin, something, 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 be rich. And that's also pretty clear to people, but it's not necessarily the roadmap. I mean, it's happened 3 times. We've had 3 major bull cycles in 10 years from Bitcoin. So, I mean, will it happen again? Probably, but how much staying power do you have? How much capital can you hold on to? How much capital can you lock up for maybe 2 or 3 years in order to experience that? And the answer for most people obviously is none, because if you look at statistics, most people are in debt that they cannot service and they are living paycheck to paycheck. So
it's sad.
Yeah, it's just it's cultural.
So we did a lot of talking about Lightning recently, and come to figure out the majority of people think it's never going to happen. So
yeah, I was surprised to see those results, frankly.
Well, how do they expect BTC to succeed if Lightning's never going to happen? What is their backup plan?
Yeah,
it just doesn't make sense to me.
Yep. I mean, part of it, Vance.
What is, like, when we say never going to happen? What is meant by that? Because correct me if I'm wrong. Lightning technically does exist, right?
It does. Lightning Network is in live beta and has about, I believe it's $2 million worth, or maybe it's 200 million. I got to double check the number, but yes, there is value on the Lightning Network. The transactions are still not very, I don't know what the term is. They're not secure. They're not definite. Like, if you're going to send more than small amounts, they're still more likely not to settle than to settle. But they are doing quite well in the, like, 1 penny to few dollars zone at this point. But I don't know. I to call it an active beta is probably a little bit generous, but yes, technically there is a Lightning Network, and you can technically transact on it if you have the right tools right now. And primarily, the tools that work are the custodial tools. So you're actually just using somebody else's Lightning node and sending stuff to and from the same Lightning node and saying, "Hey, this is Lightning Network and it's great." So, I think the question, like, when will people use Lightning Network as the ubiquitous solution to BTC? I don't know. I really do think that, in my opinion, it's a never. Also, like, it can't scale up that large. Lightning gets exponentially more complex as it scales up, and I don't know anything that scales that way and then actually scales.
So then when Bitcoin gets a ton of transactions again, it clogs up.
Mm-hmm.
What is their solution?
I don't know. Harass Coinbase again.
Lightning Network doesn't succeed are basically saying they don't believe Bitcoin is going to succeed.
Basically, I mean, for me, like, philosophically, I've separated myself from even thinking of BTC as Bitcoin, because Bitcoin was designed to work, and we've proven that the original Bitcoin protocol does work. So at the very least, it works exponentially better than BTC at this point. So,
but that's exactly what's going to happen then. So does BSV become the main thing, or what?
I don't know. I mean, the network economics demand one of two things. So here's what BTC can do to survive. BTC can switch from a proof of work model and switch to a proof of stake model, which itself then creates greater inflation. It raises the supply cap, maybe eliminates the supply cap altogether in order to feed constant small inflation. But the security model, weighed out against the economics model of BTC, doesn't work. If the reward subsidy continues to go down, but fees per transaction go up, then people like that eliminates demand. Any economist will tell you that fees rising will slow demand. So Bitcoin needs growth and demand, and like in order to have growth in price, and it needs growth in price in order to have each block be paid for by fees, but people are not going to pay those fees if the chain is unusable for their real lives. So I mean, it's a catch-22. Like they basically have to move to an inflation-based model. And I've been saying this like really loudly for a couple of weeks. And it's funny because just yesterday there were a couple of major articles that came out from serious people, including Peter Todd, who is one of the most influential Bitcoin Core developers. He's a Blockstream employee, talking about, you know what, I think Satoshi actually wanted an inflationary Bitcoin. The only problem with inflation was technical. He didn't understand how to program it. And, you know, so now all of a sudden we're seeing that narrative getting floated that, hey, we need an inflation-based security model with Bitcoin. And, you know,
it's a whole mess right now.
That's really interesting, considering a Keynesian-based digital coin would have been much easier to make. It would have been called proof of stake.
Right. I mean, that's the easy thing to do. It's the thing that people understand too.
Yeah, that's a very interesting narrative. Because I mean, I somewhat understand it, given that the reward is technically generating inflation, assuming that you have a pegged price.
Right.
Now, to be fair, the white paper doesn't talk about, hey, let's get this on an exchange and let's get free market trading of it.
Right.
That was outside the scope of works, but I would assume that it was part of the plan to get it in the hands of people to make a decision on what its value was.
Sure, absolutely. I mean, it was clearly meant to be two things. It was meant to be cash for the world, and it was meant to be a distributed operating system. And, you know, there's a million emails between guys like Mike Hearn and other people with Satoshi Nakamoto saying, hey, what the heck do you actually picture people using this for? And Satoshi was clear, like, well, it can be a simple micropayments paywall for digital media content, or the blockchain can be an email server itself. And rather than paying your ISP, you can pay the blockchain in order to send email. It'll make everything more efficient, more decentralized, et cetera, et cetera. But micropayments. Satoshi used that term a ton of times in his secondary analysis of what he meant by XYZ in the white paper. And then obviously the first use was always cash. It was business. It was a tool for a means of exchange. And you know, the store value narrative is not false. It is a narrative that exists in money, but it was not a primary narrative. It was not ever supposed to be the base narrative of the economics of Bitcoin to be digital gold. Like, it actually just doesn't even make any sense. Like, we don't need other stores of value. They exist in the real world. We need a better system to stop censorship of commerce. And that's what Bitcoin was supposed to be. So, I mean, and that's the civil war. And the civil war of Bitcoin really has been its destruction so far. We've seen so many false starts. And the last bull run was just another example of that. It was a false start of like, hey, here's what Bitcoin can do. And then when people actually test it out under pressure, like, well, no, it can't. So then what? Then Litecoin or Ethereum or whatever else. And it's gone so far as people assuming that Ether is itself some kind of currency to be used. You know, talk to Ethereum bros. Like, they'll tell, oh yeah, I'll just pay for my coffee or whatever with Ether. That'll be cool. It's like, well, that's not the purpose of Ether. Like, that's the obvious purpose, because the obvious purpose of a cryptocurrency is liquid money. It's like, hey, this is money I can use, but you know, we're not actually solving that problem. We haven't solved it economically, and we keep you know, whiffing the bat basically at the pitch every time. So it's a very weird parenthetical that we're in right now.
All the Bitcoins are doing pretty bad right now.
Yeah, they are. Hey, I mean, everything is.
BNB and Litecoin.
Total market cap is struggling to stay around the 110 mark.
Well, total market cap?
Yeah.
Yeah, total market cap looks worse than Bitcoin, or just as bad.
Mm-hmm.
There's only really there's been a handful of opportunities, and I've seen a lot of people have been trading like the single digit Satoshi coins,
Sure.
like Hot and Pundi X, and
Well, right. You can get a 40% move out of, a hundredth of a
yeah.
penny.
I don't like them.
Yeah, if you're gonna play single sat coins, I would be looking to make sure that there are subsat markets available. So whether it be exchanges that do, let's say, Doge pairings and things like that, because in the event that the market does move down, your one sat coin goes to 0 sats.
Right.
And the only thing that may enable you to actually get out of that is those subsat markets where you can sell into Doge.
Sure.
So if that's the trading strategy that you're doing, that's where you need to be looking. And I personally, I've made quite a lot of money in those markets where because Doge is ironically somewhat stable. It has a channel that it likes to sit in. So as long as you can time your moves right, you can basically move in and out of that exactly the same way as you would a BTC pairing, because again, like, we use BTC as a flag for what it's worth in USD value.
Mm-hmm.
So it's
does anybody have a Doge market now? I think Cryptopia had a Doge market. Yeah, but I don't think Cryptopia is doing much lately.
Doge has had crazy runs. Holy crap.
Yeah, you gotta have to find some of those sort of hole in the wall style exchanges that do them.
You could almost always count on a Doge pump.
Yeah.
It looks like every about year, sometimes twice a year, it pumps crazy,
right.
And then it fades forever.
Very pump.
It's normally whenever Bitcoin pumps up or down dramatically.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's fascinating.
But it's on Bittrex only?
Seems like it.
Poloniex? Nope.
Paul Proctor saying goodnight. Talk to you soon, my friend. Got to put the kids to bed. Say goodnight to the kids, too. From Crypto Traders. So Haib saying, Kurt, thought on the Ethereum Classic 18, or at the moment, there are some large investors behind it, so I don't think they're just going to let it die. Also, they have a new dev team, and they're continuing with the project. So will it still die in the near future? If there's one thing that the Ethereum Classic 51% attack taught me, it's that nobody cares about anything that matters. And guys like is it Gary Silbert? I don't know whether Barry Silbert. Is that
Barry Silbert?
Barry Silbert. Digital Currency Group is one of the largest conglomerate investment groups in the world. They're a joint effort between guys like Barry Silbert, his hedge fund, Blockstream, MasterCard. Is a whole group of crazy rat's nest going on over at Digital Currency Group, and they were one of the founders of Ethereum Classic. And the interesting thing is that if you look at there you go, Digital Currency Group. If you look at the blocks in Ethereum Classic's blockchain, it is more typical over the last year for a block to have no transactions in it than it is for it to have any transactions in it at all. And that tells me that nobody is using Ethereum Classic for anything that matters. Sure, there's some experimentation. There's people that are trying to build blockchains conceptually, but it's just like everything else. It's like Pundi X or Hot, these things we're looking at these charts for, and it's like, is that a good idea? Sure, Pundi X is a good idea. Is anybody going to use that good idea? Probably not. And the reason probably not is because there's not really decentralization, and there's also not really a business entity behind it to make it happen. And you need one or the other. You either need to have a completely decentralized public blockchain that can be used like a utility openly, or you need to have business people whose hands you can shake and whose cell phones you can call to say, hey, we're going to launch some product that's integrated into your ecosystem and we need your help. And if you don't have one of those things, then you don't really have a product. And Ethereum Classic is kind of that. Like it made sense. I was an Ethereum Classic supporter. Conceptually, I didn't like the ETH rollback after the DAO hack and all of that stuff. I would argue that Ethereum Classic is the real Ethereum. However, it's not being used. And if it has no use, I mean, what is the purpose of having multiple versions of Ethereum? And, and really it informs my opinion on things like Lisk and Arc and EOS and Stellar and everything else. It's like, sure, like Lisk is a good idea and Arc is a good idea. However, if we're not really doing much with any of it, then it's all just kind of, I like comparing things to arguing about the smell of unicorn farts, because it could be a fascinating conversation, but they're not real. And, the only value is speculative. It's the value is the conversation. And truly, speculative trading is just a conversation about arbitrary value. And that's what it is. It's literally just, no, I think Ethereum Classic is worth $3. No, I think it's worth $5. And the answer is why. So, that's where my thoughts are on Ethereum
This
Classic.
just blows my mind right here that they're holding Ethereum Classic as their second largest position.
It's incredible.
They've held this.
Comment from Ahmad saying, PundiX is being used by merchants today. More point of sale devices being rolled out this year. I'm aware. I mean, PundiX is trying to do something. I was using PundiX generally, not specifically. Like, if you look at real utility in places, you can see, like, first of all, you can see how little liquidity there is based on this chart. I mean, Binance is a major exchange for PundiX. And
it's only 19 Satoshis. It was 10.
Right. But I mean, if you're looking at this chart, we're seeing no liquidity. So this is people trading it, but nobody's actually settling in it, or else we would see it. So, is it a good idea? Yes. PundiX is a good idea. But is it the idea we need right now? I don't know. I don't know why we need a token from PundiX, frankly. Like, there's no reason to have a token associated with point of sale. Unless it's, I mean, you can do things with it. You can create, loyalty programs and stuff based on some token economy, but it's not the simplest way to do it. And if it's not the simplest way to do it, it's less likely to be the way that it is done in the future.
They're trying to do their own thing.
Yeah.
They don't want to go support Bitcoin or push another coin when they could have their own coin and make tons of profits.
Well, and power to them in that regard. Sahib asking, by the way, what's the reason DigiByte doesn't get listed on Binance or other large exchanges? The reason DigiByte doesn't is that they don't have a funding mechanism. They don't have a DAO. They don't have a paid dev team. They don't have a treasury. So DigiByte really is a community-funded project entirely. The people are volunteers. Josiah, who I talk to all the time, he's just a fan. He's a DigiByte fan who helps people set up mining rigs and debug their nodes, and he does it because he believes in DigiByte, and that's just DigiByte's model. That's how they view decentralization. And Binance, while not 100% this way, they do typically request a large donation in exchange for a listing on Binance. So
it's an administration fee.
Yeah, and it's unclear and it's a little sketchy the way it's implemented. So Binance is a little bit, in my opinion, I don't know if the word's unprofessional. It's a little bit of a mafia style business tactic there. So, and DigiByte has very publicly fought them on it. Jared Tate is the guy who built DigiByte. He coded the blockchain. He forked it from Litecoin and invented a bunch of stuff to make DigiByte happen. And he has very publicly called out CZ and called them a scam and said DigiByte will never consent to this scam economy, etc. So, it is what it is. I think eventually we'll see DigiByte on a number of exchanges, but only if they...
You think we'll see this again?
The super pump?
That is insane.
Yeah, it's an epic pump.
Supernova.
Yeah. I mean, maybe. DigiByte's a cool project. They do a couple of things really, really well. I don't know if it's important enough to, change the universe. The DigiByte people will tell you it is, but I mean, it's cool. It's a very, very, very cool project, but I don't know that it's.
They thought I could for about 1 month right here.
Right. I mean, at the time it was the fastest proof of work blockchain, and it does that by doing a couple of specific things with the way that it mines. They use multi-shield mining, which is five algorithms at a time, and they've got 15-second block time, and they do a bunch of things to basically allow for about 1,500 transactions a second on chain. So it's cool, but is it going to change the universe? It remains to be seen.
2 weeks. Crazy.
It's crazy.
And then it's just a fade for
months.
6 months.
Yeah. Ahmad saying to everyone, PundiX token is used for each transaction and is burned. You can spend BTC, ETH, or BTC or ETH using PundiX point of sale. I think their tech is most intuitive, simplest way for the layman to use and spend crypto. Yeah, I mean, I don't disagree. I've looked into PundiX because we're pretty big fans of point of sale systems. So I think it's a good point of sale. I think the UX is nice. Like, it's not.
What does Pundi mean?
In many Asian terms, it is slang for the female genitalia. So, and I believe it's a Thai or maybe an Indonesian or a Filipino project or something. So it may literally be just mean Vagina X project.
But Kurt, I mean, as you said, there's no liquidity. So unless there is a Asian centric exchange that we don't
Right.
know about that's delivering volume, it's not settling.
Right.
So it may do a burn on every settlement. It may have all that, but there's no evidence of it being settled. So unless people are accepting PundiX and then reusing that onwards,
Right.
and so there's no one actually settling it. It's just moving.
Right. Yeah, and it doesn't appear to be settling anywhere based on the market chart we're looking at here.
Yeah, and if you're using it in a point of sale, you're using the PundiX to buy something that has a real world cost. So
Right.
At some point, someone has to hand over actual money to buy something. So there's got to be a point in time where it settles.
Right. So, yeah, it would seem that PundiX is more marketing than function, but that's every crypto project. So it's not really a criticism of PundiX specifically, but
they're in Venezuela.
Interesting.
They're competing with Dash.
Yeah.
For market share.
Yes, sure. Well, I think the thing with Pundi,
that worries me.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, what they're doing is, they're using a token allegedly, they're using the token within the POS ecosystem for settlement of their coin, not settlement to fiat, but that's what they're doing to settle Bitcoin and ETH. Apparently,
so they're taking transactions and turning it into NPXS.
Yeah. But we're not seeing it on the chart because there's no liquidity. So it's either not really being used hardly at all, or it's being used in really little amounts, which I guess would be, would be obvious if they're, it's only being used in
5,000.
Yeah.
You can get one starting August 18th.
Sure.
2018. All right, it's out.
Hey guys, I have to jump off.
That's cool.
Enjoy the rest of the call.
Good.
All right.
Good having you, Vance.
All right. See you guys.
Take care. So Hybe saying Metal started getting some volume out of nowhere. I haven't heard about that project in a long time. Yeah, me neither. Let's take a peek at the Metal chart. Metal's another one of those interesting projects. It's an Ethereum coin or any coin or token, depending on how you feel about it.
Man.
that functions on the Ethereum blockchain that gives you some kind of reward. I don't remember what the reward structure is, but you're rewarded for using it as cash.
Some really good volume right there.
Big volume. It's interesting.
Most it's ever gotten, ever.
Hmm.
Maybe it's finally found a bottom?
Maybe.
It's just these types of charts, it's really hard to tell because there's not a lot of history. So, yeah, you're going off.
It's the incoming pump, maybe. Maybe somebody's going to PND it.
Maybe it's going to do what DGB did.
Right.
Pumped 2,000%. I mean, that's people are like looking, what's the next bull market going to look like? Well, it's probably going to happen in like 2 weeks and then be done. That's what happens in crypto. That DGB pump only lasted 2 weeks.
Right.
And faded off for the rest of the year.
Mm-hmm.
So when it happens fast. And these are good signs to look for, big volume. Although this is pretty far off of the support level that I would like to go off of, which is this double bottom here.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and it wasn't really showing any indicator that it wanted to take off either. The volume wasn't anything special.
Right. It's just
after it started
kind of popped up here.
Yeah.
Pulled back. Yeah, it's not something I would look to get in right now, but it might be something that could be on a watch list.
Sure.
And I'm really excited to start using Trading Room app. Did you look at that at all?
It just very briefly. I didn't look deep at it.
Let's see if I can pull it up here. Trading Room app. It shows trends. I'll pull up a screenshot.
Yeah, let's see it.
So it shows trends of, like, it gives you the ability to basically scan the entire market very quickly. Like it showed, like, dark red is like very bearish, light red, and then green. So when it starts to change trend, like these boxes will start going one by one. Like first it's going to like be green on the 5 minute, then 15-minute, hourly, daily would be last.
Interesting.
So all these coins with like strong red, that's strong downtrend on the daily, strong green, strong uptrend on the daily.
Huh. And it's based on a series of indicators?
No, it's just based on the trend. This is only trend. So, well, obviously.
Remember, trend is your friend, everybody.
So Binance would be like strong green.
Sure.
Yeah. It's interesting. He's starting to release these like scanners, and it's going to be an app.
Yeah, sure. I mean, it's an interesting tool for checking, doing further analysis. Certainly wouldn't trade off the pink or the green boxes, but it's a good start.
Well, no, but it gives you like an idea of what to look for. Here, I pull it up. So you can filter by volume. So right now, BNB BTC has the highest volume.
Sure.
On the charts right now, we see the daily is pretty green, and as you can see on the chart, obviously, but BNB might be a little bit too late to jump in.
Right.
You don't want to buy it when it's all green. You want to try and get it while it's
heating up.
So this is a interesting tool, and I'm excited until when he fully releases it.
Yeah, we'll be interviewing him. Did we pick a day for next week or not yet?
Sometime next week.
Okay.
Is what we're shooting for. So I got some questions for him about this. It looks like right now you can only do Binance.
Sure.
And that was one of my questions, like what exchanges are you going to integrate? Because I don't really care to look at a lot of these. I want to be able to pick the coins that I like to trade and then just be able to watch those all the time.
Sure.
And I think if we could somehow integrate it into the Discord, that'd be awesome. But he's just starting to release it, so I'm not expecting a ton right now. But yeah, you guys can check this out at tools.tradingroom.io. We'll put that link in the description.
Right. Yeah, that's cool. We've got Ahmad asking, anyone looked into Quant stamp connecting blockchains? I remember doing some fundamental analysis on it in the middle of last year. I don't know. It strikes me.
Ticker? Here it is.
I think it's QSP. Yeah, it's QSP BTC.
Jeez.
Yeah, I mean, it's another one of those coins that was hyped up during the bull run. It's an Ethereum. Is it QSP? Ahmad is saying
QSP, yes.
QNT. He's saying
could QNT? Be. Quant?
Quant? Oh, is it a different thing? Quant? So there's Quant and there's Quant stamp?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, now I'm lost.
This is Quant, and it looks like it just got released on Bitrex the other day.
Brand new. All right. Time for some Google food.
And look at the 4-hour chart. Like, there's just no...
Yeah. Yeah, there's gaps. There's gaps in hour. Like, there was no trade per hour on some of them.
I hate these kinds of charts.
Yeah, fascinating. I'm gonna have to look into it. I don't know what Quant is. If it's related to Quant Stamp in some way, then I know something about it. But Quant Network, interesting.
This is on Bitrex, and I don't trade on Bitrex anymore.
Sure.
I used to trade on Bitrex, but I think everybody switched.
Yeah, Bitrex got beat to death by Binance.
And they shut down for way too long.
They did.
Did Binance shut down? I can't remember.
I don't think so. Like, I don't recall there ever being a...
Because I know, like, Poloniex did, and Bitrex did.
Sure.
So...
Ahmad is saying check IDEX, see if there's an IDEX chart. I don't know if IDEX broadcast.
I don't have IDEX on TradingView.
Yeah, they don't broadcast their charts, so we'd have to have an IDEX account to look at their chart.
I don't have IDEX.
Let's see. Yeah. I actually think I do have an IDEX account, but I don't know that I could log into it readily.
The one I'm watching is Litecoin right now.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of people have been looking. They're like, there's trading opportunities out there, but there's only been a couple I've been looking at. All month has been pretty much Litecoin and BNB.
Sure.
And those have been like really good go-to for trading because there's been a lot of like movement. Like this channel right here even is from... It went from 30 all the way to 33, like several different times. Like catching $1, $2, $3 move. Sure. You got a couple hundred shares, a couple thousand shares. Like you could make decent profits.
Sure.
So I've been doing some trading on Litecoin and BNB over these past, pretty much the last several weeks or month. But Litecoin chart right now, it's actually pretty interesting because it was in this channel for several weeks. This was going back to the beginning of January, and it broke out of this channel right here, and this candle kind of retested the top, and this candle closed above it. So now it's kind of holding this previous channel's resistance as support. So you know what happens next.
Moon.
It's something I'm paying attention to. This is why I tweeted earlier this week, like, you guys got to watch Litecoin this week. This should be on your watch list. I've been talking about it in the group pretty much every day as well. It's possible, but even so, you could make a trade out of this because if you take an entry now and you play off this breakout retest pattern, because we know it might not be, it's not 100% successful, but we know it has a pretty good win rate. So just looking at the risk, okay, if it breaks down below this line right here, then this pattern is going to be invalidated. I don't want to be in the trade anymore. So 3% risk for, okay, if it breaks out and test this, it's at least 7 or 8%. And if it goes to the highs again, you got a 20% move.
Right.
Bigger if it breaks out. But
Bill also has mentioned, he said he had to leave, so we don't have Bill anymore, but he said, check out eDNA, which is an EOS. My understanding is that it's like an EOS-based competitor to like 23andMe that somehow allows you to leverage your DNA for profit.
What?
Somehow, yeah.
eDNA?
eDNA. He said it's going to be difficult to
Here
trade.
it is.
Yeah.
Well, it's not on CoinMarketCap.
Right.
Blockchain plus DNA plus EOS plus DAC.
Oh boy. Something big has arrived.
Find out more.
Please spit in this tube.
Hey, I'm back.
Trustworthy. Oh, hey, Bill.
You want to tell us about eDNA?
Yeah, I think it's a pretty cool project from everything I've gathered in the Telegram channel. They're sequencing DNA, but you own it instead of, if you've checked out the 23andMe or some of the other ones, the cost is a lot lower to sequence your DNA, but you don't own it. And those companies are selling your DNA to research groups. And the average price apparently is like $350 per research thing. And I haven't been able to validate this, but the average person supposedly can sell their DNA to multiple research things. And they're saying that the average person's DNA, they could be able to monetize it for $70,000. Now, even if a small fraction of that is true, you can get back the cost of your DNA.
Right.
And I like the fact that you own it. And there was recently a case with the FBI going after one of these groups, and they handed over everyone's DNA. And you can't do that with this project. The only way DNA is released is with a private key, and you're the only one that has it. And there's several ways where you can monetize. I think the researchers are going to go to the DAC, which they're forming now. And I think the DAC may be taking a percentage of that money and giving it back to those that are staked in the DAC. So that's one way to monetize. And they have a couple other use cases. I put something in Discord about saving elephants, and they're also talking about human trafficking. That they can use DNA for ivory tusks on elephants and make sure that there's no poaching involved. So there's a couple other ways that they're looking at making money. So, and right now the sequence the genomes is $700 to $800 worth, and they want to do that funding only by Edna. So, and the first sequencing is going to be like 5,000 people. So when you do the math, 5,000 people getting sequenced with the amount of available tokens, the price is going to have to probably 10 or 12 times for them to even do that. So I see a huge upside with this.
Yeah, it sounds like it could be a good trade.
This is a coin?
I'm surprised they have not adopted as a slogan, "It's worth more than spit in a bucket."
It is a coin. You have to get it through one of the EOS DEX exchanges. So you're buying it with EOS.
Sure.
And when you do the conversion to US dollars, it's like 0.0007 of a dollar.
So it's a 7,000th of a penny.
Yeah, it's a
So it's got some room to move.
Really,
right.
it's really cheap right now, and I really think it could take off and go 50 to 100 times.
Sure.
So to me, it's a really low risk, and I think it's got a huge upside.
Huh.
So you bought some?
I have almost 1 million of them.
For $7 or $70 or something. That's interesting. I mean, conceptually, it's cool. It does sound like it could be a good trade. Do you have to use the EOS or one of the EOS dexes? Like, where would you recommend if we were to do such a thing?
There are some that require know your customers, but I've been using the Dex EOS.
Okay.
Although the liquidity on that is not as good as there's also new Dex.
Okay.
So those are the two that I've been buying it on, and the price has been creeping up over the last 2 weeks or so.
Okay. Oh, fascinating.
Interesting. Yeah.
Yeah, it's very interesting. It's a very unconventional play for us, but
yeah. Well, I mean, even if it gets to 10 cents a coin, that's over a 50 times return, and I think that's very possible.
Yeah, no, I don't think that's unreasonable, actually, given the hype cycle on some of these things. So
I think the question is, how do we get more people trading on these dexes?
Yeah, that's true.
How do they attract customers if there's nobody really? Is there somebody? There's nobody really in charge of.
All right. Well, there's no market makers, and so then you struggle with liquidity and stuff. But
the DAC isn't going to only be on EOS either. They're currently working on a coin swap, so you can pick which EOS IO chain you want to be staked on. So right now it's either going to be EOS or Telos. And right now your coins are on EOS, but if you want to be on Telos, which will probably have a better return, you just move your coins from EOS to Telos. And in the process of doing that, it burns the coins on EOS and moves it to Telos.
Okay, interesting.
So what do you think of EOS? You have to be bullish on EOS if you're bullish on that project.
Yeah, I'm still bullish on EOS. I think there's a lot of DApps in the pipeline, and
sure,
I see the use case going up, consistently.
They need users, though.
Yeah, unfortunately, and I don't like it, but I understand it. But most of the uses are gambling apps, and
sure,
that's a huge portion. But there's virtual reality coming and more games. But I'd like to see more real world uses outside of those.
Sure.
Yep, it's all about the users. That's why I think. That's why I like Brave, because they have the users. They have 5 million people every single month using the Brave browser regularly. So they release their product, and it's not a platform or anything, but like EOS is, but they have users, and I think that's what really is going to matter.
Yep.
Same with Binance. Binance, millions of people are using that exchange every day. You have to have BNB if you want to cut your fees. Can't short it.
We got, speaking of BNB, Whitey is saying, have you taken a look at BAT BNB? I didn't know if that was an option.
Yeah, it is.
So it looks like it's right near support. Oh, yeah.
That's pretty much at the low, huh?
Yeah.
But I think BNB is near a cool-off zone, and BAT is coming near a bounce. So
right. Yeah. So if you're trying to accumulate BNB long term, it's a pretty juicy looking chart, actually.
Yeah, actually, BNB has quite a few pairs, actually.
And look at the RSI on it too.
Oh yeah. Yep.
All-time low. Yeah.
But there's like a lot of coins on there that you could buy directly with BNB, and there's liquidity because a lot of people do. BNB is the new Bitcoin.
Thank God. Sohaib is saying also, let's not forget about XRP. I think it should be on our permanent watch list as it does crazy moves when it gets a little hype. The chart doesn't look great, but still hasn't had a pump in a while. XRP is such a weird animal. Like, it actually tends to bleed on good news and then pump like 4 days later for no obvious reason and stuff. I'm in a group. It's been a group I've been in for a long time on Facebook, and they turned from like a general crypto group, and they basically turned into an XRP like maximalist group over time. And so I hear a lot of the XRP whispers by default just from seeing their notifications. But I don't know. XRP it's like my perennial like love-hate coin.
I like XRP. I've made a lot on XRP.
Sure. I mean, I've traded
a lot more than I've lost on it.
Yeah, I've traded XRP.
Right here. All happened within these 2 weeks.
Sure.
This is what I say. You can't sleep because when the bull market comes, you could be sleeping for 2 weeks and it blew you right by, and then you could try and go long and then you get stuck.
Right. Holding somebody else's XRP.
Well, it happens during like the worst times. Like this is during December. Like for a lot of people, everyone's extra busy around December. Bull market comes, and by the time everyone's families heard about it, it was already topped out, and they got the very top.
Yep.
So, but this is one that hasn't had the stable, ever long uptrend. It's usually just sideways, and then it just pops, whereas other coins have been more consistent long term. What do you think about Quadrica? Think that guy they're scamming?
I don't know. I think there's so much unknown about that situation.
I saw Fox News post a story about it. The first crypto thing I hear him post about, and it's that. Of course, it's going to be just making. I think it makes the whole industry look very bad.
It does. I think it's just as likely that the guy completely exit scammed it as it is that they, he died or whatever. But the whole thing is like,
I had someone who's not in crypto post that on my timeline asking me if it was true.
Yeah.
It is. Look at Fox News posted it.
Sure.
That's what I'm saying. Like, there's so many people. This is mainstream media, and it just makes the industry look bad.
Right. Well, and it's so lame because it's not really indicative of anything. Like the real banks, quote unquote, are doing all kinds of money laundering and illegal crap all the time. It's just covered up by the insiders. Just the whole thing is ridiculous.
Well, yeah, they also released that report the other day. What, 22 billion or something?
Yeah.
Crazy was laundered in 2018.
Right.
Through banks. Just Jamie Dimon.
Right. Yeah, it's unbelievable.
This guy. Yeah, the story's fishy. He went to India while he had Crohn's disease to build a school when he's the founder of a crypto exchange.
Right.
And then he died in India while building a school with Crohn's disease.
That's life.
Which I don't even think is supposed to kill you.
Yeah, I know some people who have Crohn's disease. I know it's unpleasant, but I don't know that it's necessarily life-threatening to an otherwise healthy person. But who knows?
It's fishy. Over 190 million. I thought Quadrica was one of the. I thought they were going to be the Canadian Coinbase.
They are the Canadian Coinbase. That's what's scary about it. Like they've been around for years. They've done good business for a long time.
But they're not as transparent as Coinbase. We see Brian Armstrong a lot out in the media, whereas this guy, I've never seen him.
Yep.
He's young.
Yep. Whole thing's crazy.
So you think he's lying? He's still alive?
I think, yeah, it's possible. I think the whole thing is, I don't know. I like a good conspiracy theory. So,
well, we could see the wallets. I mean, we should be able to dig up the wallets. I guess that is a good thing about crypto is you're going to be able to know if they were lying because if money moves out of the wallets, unless
right.
Did you see that thing about Blockstream has a proof of reserves tool?
Interesting. Yeah, I saw that you posted it, but I hadn't read it yet.
Blockstream?
Yeah, I don't even know what that means. Like, if I can...
It's in the Discord under videos and interesting reads.
Yeah, I'll give it a look. I saw it, but then we had to hop on this call, so I haven't read it yet.
Probably on their Twitter right here. Proof of reserves. Yeah. They have to proof the amount that they have on the back end.
Pretty much you attach to a wallet and try to send a transaction that's invalid, and it proves that the coins are there, but it doesn't go through.
So they're trying to be a bank.
Yeah. Thank you, Blockstream.
They want the exchanges out in public, their wallets. Yep, that's all I got. BNB's going again. So, yeah, keep an eye on BNB, I'd say, and Litecoin. These are my two to watch.
Sure.
And, yeah, that's all I could leave you guys with.
Sure. Oh, hey, John. John just popped on video. We see you, John.
Who, me?
John Leporello.
Oh, boy. That was by accident. I'm at work right now. Sorry, guys.
All of a sudden, your video just popped on.
That's bizarre. I just turned my phone back on, and here I am.
That's cool.
How you guys doing? All right?
Doing all right. Yeah, I did an hour and 20-minute call. We're wrapping up right now. So
awesome.
Yeah.
Well, it was a great job. I was happy listening to it at work. So keep up the good work, guys.
Cool. Thanks, man.
Glad you liked it.
Yeah, thanks.
Keep an eye on Litecoin and BNB. Don't sleep too long on BAT.
Yep. All right, so let's wrap it up.
All right, guys. We'll talk to you in the chat room.
See you, everybody.